So I'll just start over kind of explaining because we didn't really have sound in the beginning. But I'm going to use our blend markers in conjunction with our Stampin' Write markers. And normally you'd use like a tuxedo black ink pad with the blends, but you don't have to. I'm going to show you how we can use this ink right here. Okay, I'll try to get my head on straight and we'll get this done. So let's marker this up. I'm using Marina Mist, which is the lighter of, pretty close to the lighter of the two of the Night of Navy combo. We're just inking up the rose. This is from Petal Palette. And then I'm going to take Pear Pizzazz, which is pretty close to the light of the Old Olive. Same thing, I'm just going to ink this up. Okay. All right, I think my microphone was off, so can you hear me pretty good now, or at all at this point? Welcome back. We'll see if we can do this round two. Let me know if you can hear me. The microphone is on, everything's plugged in. Hopefully this time, I don't know how it started, but my podcasts were playing in the background, and I think that was causing the microphone not to work. So, okay, we're all good. All right, so recap. I've inked up my rose stamp with Marina Mist and Pear Pizzazz Stampin' Write markers. Excuse me. And I'm just going to stamp it on some Whisper White cardstock. Gotta breathe on it. That's not the most ideal thing to do, I guess, when you have a cough, but it's for a good cause, right? Okay, so this in and of itself is just pretty, just stamped like this. I like this. And a couple different techniques. You could take your blenders, you could take an aqua painter, although on the Whisper White I don't recommend an aqua painter unless you're really super careful, because once this stuff gets wet it does kind of warp a lot. But we're going to use our Stampin' Blend markers. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the lighter of the two of the blue, the Night of Navy, and I'm going to, and you could do this two different ways. You could either put on the lighter color first, and I think for the navy, now that I remember, I did one before yesterday and I think it worked better that I did that. I'm going to take the brush side and I'm just little, almost like little tick marks, but I'm working from the bottom up. And I'm just using the really fine tip, and I'm using a real light touch because I don't want a ton of color. All I'm trying to do is add like a shadow in the area. Okay? So once you have your dark put in there, now I tried a different, like the original card that I did it in Calypso, and I did the light first. And that worked out okay because it didn't cover up all my outlines. The problem is once you can't see your outlines, it makes it difficult to do the areas correctly because you don't know where one starts and one stops. And that's with this darker color. So if you're going to do navy like I am with this one, start with the dark shadows first and then come back in like I am and do your light. Okay? So I'm going over, and it works well with this ink color. It's not bleeding my Stampin' Write marker at all. And what I'm doing is I'm going right over the stamped line too. So let me show you, see if I can get this close if you can see it. See how I just shadowed that in? Okay. And we're going to repeat that process with the other two flowers. So what I'm doing is I'm looking for any areas that I know a shadow would fall. Like usually it's where two petals would overlap, or maybe where, like with a rose, you know how that has the crease area down towards the center and it comes and kind of flips out or curls out. That's where I'm putting my darkest colors, is right there. And of course in the middle along the edges. The only thing that you have to be aware of is don't try to put too much dark down, because then the entire flower will just end up being dark. And then come back in and just blend out. And I did notice that with a couple different colors that I did, at first it may look like, oh, this is a hot mess, but then give it a minute for the marker to settle and kind of even out a little bit where it's at, and it usually came out. If you have a couple areas that look too close to being like almost like just a straight line, just blend them up just a little bit. And there's my second one. And then now, this would probably be blending better if I had something underneath it. Grab a sheet of paper. It's starting to bleed just a little bit, so. This always works better if we have something absorbent underneath. Alright, so now I'm going to do the same thing with this last little flower. And with the last little flower, since it's so small, I'm really just following like the inside lines where the shadow would be. Okay, just like that. And I'm going to do the middle. Excuse me. Okay, and then we'll add the light. And with the light, I'm making sure I kind of go out to the edges to cover up my Stampin' Write marker line that I have. And that's because we are trying to go for kind of a no line look here. Make it look like I just sat down and colored a rose. That's why we call it cheating. But it's okay to cheat with this. It's okay. This is a technique. It's allowed. So. Okay, swirl the middle. Okay, now what I did learn when I was playing around with this is that you could take the colorless blender here, and I'm using just the bullet tip, and a lot of times with a rose, when the petal's folding out, when it's bending out, you'll have the darkest area right here where it's coming out of the flower, and then as it's folding up, you'll have this ridge along the petal that's really light, where the light is reflecting. So that's what I'm going to do. I found that it worked really well on these two petals that are kind of facing up. I'm just blending out just a quick little line to give it a highlight. It's not going to make it overly crazy highlighted, but just enough, because remember, art is just giving the impression of an image, especially this. We're not trying to go for exactness here. We're just trying to go for an impression. So that's how I did the rose part. The leaf part is actually, once you've got this, you're home free. I do use my Old Olive a lot, so I have to order another combo because the tips are getting used up just because I use them a lot. So I put down the lighter of the two. And now it doesn't really matter whether you do bullet or if you do brush marker or brush side. Now I'm adding some dark, and then I'm going to blend it out just a little bit, soften it up with the lighter. Okay, so go around and let's do this one. I'm going to add my lighter. This one, again, if you wanted to do dark first and then your light, it really doesn't matter. This is kind of personal preference of what you'd like to do. And add my darker. Then we're going to blend it out. And then now let's do our last leaf. My tip is just getting so dry. I love using my blend markers. Okay. And blend this, soften it up a little bit with this. All right. So that's my flower. I did color a couple different ones. This was the one that I put on the first card. We're going to do a card exactly like this, only with blue. And then this one was one of my first ones that I did with the raspberry. And I think here on this one, I over blended it. So that's where I caution, try not to over blend, because then it just, I think if it's very, I don't want to call it loose because it doesn't look loose. It just doesn't have enough definition to make it look like a flower. I think these two turned out really, really good. But I think that middle one, I think I overdid it. So, you know, that's why you practice. You keep learning. Sometimes it's not about doing a quickie card. Sometimes it's just enjoying the process of learning, right? Because we always should keep learning. Okay, so now that that flower is done, I'm going to go ahead and go over to my Big Shot. I'll be right back, and I'm going to die cut this out. If I can find my die. I don't know about anybody else's roads, but normally there's like gobs of traffic outside because we live so next to a busy street, and it has been way quiet. I think a lot of people decided to stay home today. Just because of the weather. Alright, so now I have this die cut out. So let's build the rest of our card. Let's move these out of the way. And on my card, I just have a piece of Whisper White again. And what I wanted is I wanted some kind of area right here that was gray, just to help make this flower pop. Because if I just put it on the card, it's still pretty, but it needs to pop up. So I wanted to add something in the background that would help it. So I'm going to take my Smoky Slate ink pad. And I've got a couple different stamps we're going to use here. This stamp right here is from the celebration that just became available. This is the Eclectic Expressions. This is a level 1 stamp set, and I'm using this little kind of like watercolor wash, and I'm also going to be using these dots as well. And oddly enough, when I was looking through my stamps, looking for something that was going to give me this nice watercolor wash look, I've got this right here that actually goes with the Lots of Lavender. This is also a celebration set. Excuse me. And I wanted to use this for the background as well, because I didn't want to do a watercolor wash because this paper doesn't work well with a lot of water. But some people aren't really comfortable with that too. So I thought this was a great way to kind of cheat again. This is kind of a cheater card, I guess. We're just cheating all around. If you're not comfortable doing the watercolor washes, but you really like the look, this is a great way to do it without having to get out a paintbrush and a water or your aqua painter. Get the cardstock here. So what I did was I just used the lower right hand corner as kind of my point of reference here. And I'm just fanning out, and right now it looks like, okay, this isn't going to work, but just trust the Yoda Master here. She's got it. Now I'm turning my stamp upside down. I'm just going to keep stamping this just trying to fill this in with just lots of variants of the smoky slate color. Okay, now that I'm done with the lavender one, we'll go back in here. And I'm using that Eclectic Birthday little wash area. And pretty soon, just from like randomly stamping, I'm really just being sloppy with this, honestly. And the smoky slate, as you layer it up, it'll be dark in some areas and light in some areas. And that's really what I'm going for, is just a variance of color. And I'm trying to make sure that there's no easily determinable pattern here. I don't want it to look like it's a pattern. I just want it to look like it's pretty random. So we have this nice gray area now that we can put our flower, and it'll help that flower kind of stand off the card a lot better. Of course, we're going to add some more elements. Now, if you want this darker, you could certainly use some basic gray. Or if you'd rather have, you know, just maybe a lighter blue color or a contrast color like a yellow would be really pretty too. I'm just going to stick with the gray obviously today, but play around with it and see what you like. The contrast color to blue is like a yellow or an orange, so you could definitely do a yellow or orange kind of watercolor wash and that would definitely look pretty good. It would help it to pop really well. So I have a couple of these leaf swags, whatever you want to call them. I cut those out of vellum because I didn't want anything to cover this up solidly, but I definitely wanted something in the background that was just kind of light and just delicate, but still help the flowers to kind of stand out. So to get those on, remember this area is where our flower is going to go. So I'm not too worried about this glue showing. I just got a little bit of liquid glue because I found that was a little easier to stick down my leaves, whatever you want to say. So I got that one. And if you feel like this is too much, you can always trim some branches off. I think it is a little bit too much, and my scissors are not right this second near me, so I'm just going to tear that. Okay, now we're going to let that dry, and let's go ahead and stamp our greeting. I should have brought some white, because I only have like a whole tub of this stuff. Too much white. Okay, so the greeting, let's see if I can find it here. Already on a black. I'm going to keep this at gray. I think black would be a little bit too stark. You can try it and see if you like it. I just wanted it a little bit lighter than black. And I'm going to cut this out with my label. This comes with the die set, the matching die set, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. And you probably want to use some washi tape to hold this bad boy down. So I'm going to grab a piece of washi tape. Okay, so there's my greeting. And what we're going to do next is I want to add some color to that greeting, but I don't want to sponge it necessarily. So I'm going to just do almost like a direct to paper. I'm going to scrape this along, kind of push it in to my ink pad a little bit. And what I'm doing is just trying to give it a little bit of a gray edge so it stands out a little better. Excuse me. Oh my goodness. All right. Sneezing and coughing. Aren't you glad I ain't breathing on you today? Holy cow. All right. So we're about ready. So let's add some dots. I guess I could have done this before, but I did do this last just because I wanted to see where I wanted them. So I'm going to add some dots just here and there. Since I didn't glue, I like leaving the leaves a little bit loose. I think it adds texture to it. So, all right. Get ink everywhere. All right, so let's add some dimensionals to the back of my flower. Got some scissors in for. I've got some dimensional stuff I want to use up. This is from Paper Pumpkin last year. I think the Christmas one or something. I'm just using this up, so I'm just gonna put this behind here. I was just thinking, Jackie, we could make this at the next product playground if you wanted to. I think this card might be right up your guys' alley. You'll have to ask Linda if she wants to do it. Alright, so I have the dimensionals behind there. So let's go ahead and put this in the corner. Just like that. And I'm going to add a little bit of dimensional back there. Oops. Sometimes they disappear. This was from a shaker card Paper Pumpkin, so the thingies were circular. Really cute cards. But boy, they gave us a lot of dimensionals with that Paper Pumpkin. And these are a little bit taller than normal because it would allow room for like the little sequins and stuff. Alright, so I'm just gonna tuck this in here. Just try to get it integrated in with the flowers. So I'm just tucking it behind there. Alright, so let's go ahead and stick this on. And I do have snail. I'm going to put quite a bit on the back here because this is kind of a heavy piece, art piece here. This would be called an art piece because it's got all your art on it. And I have a piece of thick Whisper White. And I usually like to score my Whisper White before I fold it, the thick stuff, because it's a little tougher to fold that and have it look good. So just a little tip there. So now that that's done, we're just going to do white on white. You could do a little border if you wanted to, like of navy in this case, or even Marina Mist, or even green if you wanted this top part to stand out a little bit more. But I think the Whisper White looks good. So that is our card for this morning. This petal, I'm really surprised. At first when I saw this set, I was like, yeah, it's kind of cute. But the more I've played with it and the different techniques that you can do with it, I've really been happy with it. That and the birthday, Picture Perfect Birthday has been super popular. And it's a really cool, sweet. And these little pieces you could always put on another card somewhere if you wanted to. So these are the two cards. I recommend playing with your different colors. Remember, always go, when you want to do the no line coloring look, always go with the lighter of the two colors. That way you can color over it and it kind of disguises the line that was there. I know you can kind of see it with the leaves, but if I would have kept blending and coloring over it, it probably would have been less noticeable. But I like the way it turned out. I think it turned good. And then on this one, I just added some pearls. You can go with or without. Completely up to you. So I have been playing with Brusho with some of this too, and I was going to do I'm still doing a technique class in March. It's going to be my online technique class with the Brusho. The only snag I ran into, which is actually a good snag, is that I thought I was going to start out doing 3 or 4 techniques, but when I sat down, I actually came up with 14 ideas, 13 or 14 card ideas with the Brusho. So Dina and I decided to do a 2-parter. So part 1 will be in March, and part 2 will be in April, and there'll be an option to buy both up front if you want. But the Brusho really took me by surprise. I knew I would like it, but I didn't know I was going to absolutely love it. It's just so awesome to play with. So I'm glad you guys came out. Thanks, Carol. Thanks, Jackie, for putting up with the technology problems. It's been a crazy week. This is kind of how my week has been with technology, trying to film and record and edit and all kinds of fun stuff. But at least we got a card, right? We finished something this week. Thank you so much. Stay warm. And if you guys are stamping anything today, remember we've got the card challenge going on. Feel free to put that up today. Let's get some conversations going. Let's see what we're each doing. So I'll talk to you guys later. We'll see ya.